everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card using the Distress Oxide inks and the Thanks thin cut from Close to My Heart. So let's get started. I'm going to cut a piece of white daisy cardstock at 4.5 by 5 3/4. It's larger than a usual A2 size card because I'm going to trim it down after I'm finished blending. And then I'm going to fix it down on my glass mat with purple tape. It's a low tack tape that I can remove easily. It's just to keep it in place so it doesn't move around when I start blending. And I'm going to pull 3 colors, Mowed Lawn, Peacock Feathers, and Chipped Sapphire. I've got my blending tools and sponge tips to blend with. I'm going to start with the darkest color, which is Chipped Sapphire. And I'm just going to blend everything in along the bottom of my card and just get a layer of color put down. And then I'm going to get a fresh sponge and blending tool and blend some peacock feathers in. And I'm overlapping the peacock feathers with the chipped sapphire so that the colors blend together. And I'm just going to work in a nice even coat of color. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the Mowed Lawn at the top of the card. And just keep going until all the colors are blended together nicely. And if you haven't worked with this ink before, it's a really unique texture to it. It feels chalky or almost suede-like after it's completely dry. Oxide inks are a mix of pigment ink and regular dye ink. And in this particular situation, I'm not going to use any water, but there are a lot of cool techniques you can do, spritzing water on it and using water to make the inks oxidize. But this time I'm just going to do a panel that has a nice blend of color, gradation from dark to a lighter color. Okay, so then I'm going to use a new stamp set from Close to My Heart called Florals and Flutters. And I'm going to use the 2 butterflies that are in the set. And it's a new stamp set, so I'm going to season my stamp by rubbing it with a microfiber cloth. And you just buff it out until it kind of looks cloudy. And then I'm going to stamp off on some scratch paper with some black ink just to get my stamp ready to take ink properly and stamp. It's called seasoning. And then I'll do the same thing with the other butterfly. I'll mount it on my block and buff it out with a microfiber cloth and then stamp off a few times on scratch paper and get my stamps all ready to go. And then I'm going to take my Thanks die and just kind of place it on top of my card panel to kind of figure out where I want to stamp. And then I'm going to stamp a few of these butterflies on this card in black ink. So we'll get those down. And just an aside, the panel that you see at the top of the screen, that is, I'm going to save it for another video and do it on a separate video, just so that when I went into editing, it just got confusing. So I decided to split the 2 cards up into 2 separate videos. So stay tuned for that one. So now I'm taking my panel and I'm trimming it down. And I'm going to leave enough room so that I can have a border around the edges. So we'll get that trimmed down. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my Big Shot in, and I'm using Sapphire cardstock, and I'm going to cut out the word thanks. In Sapphire. And then I'm going to take a piece of vellum and use this outline die in Thanks and cut it out in vellum. So this will be the base for my sentiment, and then I'll use the individual letters and place them on top of that Thanks vellum die. So I'm going to glue everything down using the Aqua Tombow, and I've sped this up pretty quickly, but I'll let you see the whole process of gluing everything down. So you just take each individual letter and put a really fine bead of glue and then attach it to the vellum. And then it's ready to attach to my card panel. Okay, so that's the glued down Thanks sentiment. So now I'm going to take a card base, and this is going to be a landscape style with the fold at the top. And I'm taking a piece of Sapphire cardstock that's cut at the same size at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to glue that to my card base. Sometimes it's easier if you go from the other direction to make sure it's lined up correctly. Then I'll just get it smoothed down with my bone folder. And then once I layered it on top, my blended panel on top, I decided it needed a small frame of white around it to make it pop a little bit more. So I cut a piece of white cardstock just a smidge larger so that it would have a really thin white frame around it. And then I'll layer that on top of the Sapphire. The color just, it kind of disappeared and blended a little too much with the Sapphire, so it needed a little differentiation there. So I like that much better. It gets those bright colors to pop more. Okay, and then I'm going to take some Aqua Tombow, and I'm just placing that fine bead of glue just in the areas where the letters that are in Sapphire are, so that you won't be able to see the glue once it's attached to the card front. Kind of hide it behind all of those letters. So get that placed down. And then the last step, this is another new product. It's from Ranger, and it's called Liquid Pearls, and they're self-leveling liquid glue dots. And so this one happens to be in onyx pearl. It's like a black pearlescent hematite kind of looking color, and you just squeeze them out in different amounts onto your card front to create pearls. And be generous, because when they dry they tend to shrink up a little bit. So I just scattered a bunch of those around my card front. So that's my finished card. I love those bright colors with the Oxide inks blending together. So I'll make a list of all the supplies in the description below. I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. And thanks for watching.